Hello, people. This is Socrates' son. I'm expanding an open challenge to Imran Hussein to rebut my argument on the subject of the meaning and purpose without God. I'm confident, first of all, he won't respond, although I will post this challenge to his Twitter and to his relevant video. Unless you do that, Imran Hussein, you can keep posting, making cycles, the same arguments. My argument is still undisputed.
So I'm going to take a few moments here to respond to and just share my thoughts in regards to Alex's views on the meaning of life and the purpose of life, and some of his generalizations when it comes to religion and what religion has to offer from this perspective. So let me play the clip for you.
Where do you derive, or rather, how do you derive meaning in your life whilst being philosophically consistent? Let's see how the answers match. Go for it.
Interesting. I think I can maybe predict something along the lines of what Stephen said, because I think we more or less agree now. It's very similar to the place where I get my morality from, which is to say that I can't necessarily objectively ground meaning in anything, but I can say that if I can't do it, then neither can you, regardless of whether you believe in a God or not. We can't help but desire certain things as part. It's kind of, as Stephen once described it, an axiomatic part of our nature, that we have no choice but to desire our pleasure. We have no choice but to have other people's pleasure as a derivative of that, and therefore have a sense of morality.
Notice the cosmic skeptic said, I cannot necessarily, objectively, ground meaning in anything. What's wrong with this statement? This statement assumes that without a logos, an absolute ontological prescription, there cannot be objectivity. In reality, we don't need an absolute to ground objectivity. The only thing we need is a fixed point of reference. Objective is something related to a fixed point of reference. Absolute is the reference by its own merit. Let me give an example. Let's say I claim murder is good. Can we then say objectively, from Socrates' son's perspective, murder is good? Yes, we can say that. From my perspective, we can objectively say that murder is good. But is it truly murder good? That's another question. So it's not about objectivity, it's about true definitions. Therefore, the difference between theistic and atheist morality is the fixed point of reference, not whether it can be objective. In secular morality, the fixed point of reference is the secular definition, reducing unnecessary suffering and promoting well-being. In theistic morality, the fixed point of reference is God. Atheists cannot account for absolute morality, not objective morality.
Now, that might not be philosophically groundable, but if it's not grounded in me, then it's not grounded in God either.
So I have to commend Alex here. He's being honest, and this is something that I've noticed about him over the years. He is someone that's brave enough to acknowledge what's true from the perspective of atheism. He acknowledges very clearly that there is no objective grounding for the purpose of life or the meaning of life on atheism.
The cosmic skeptic, although he's being wrong in this one, he's brave enough to accept his mistakes. When I post you this video that I just disproven your claim that there cannot be objectivity on atheism, will you be brave enough to accept your mistake?
And in many cases, I've seen this throughout his videos and over the years, that sometimes this has meant that he has had to go against his atheist friends to do this. So that's extremely commendable, and I really respect him for this. But now the problem here, or the problem begins when he starts to put religion and God into the same basket. He follows up by saying that you can't objectively ground meaning without God or with God. Now, this is slightly problematic from the Islamic perspective. And here's a simple retort to that. We believe in God, who is the creator of everything that exists. We don't believe in a deistic conception of God. We don't believe that there is a cause, whatever the nature of this cause is. He set everything in motion, created everything, and let it be. We believe in teleology. We believe that God is the creator. He has many names and attributes. For example, he's the all-knowing, the wise, the all-wise, the all-powerful, the most loving, etc. And we believe that God created everything, created the universe, created human beings, and created things with a clear and defined purpose. That is something that God outlines in the Quran in regards to our life, in regards to the world around us, etc.
God is outside of the universe. Isn't that right? Yes. The meaning and purpose God intends for the universe is irrelevant for the meaning and purpose inside the universe. Let me demonstrate that. Let me, in fact, conclusively prove that. Let's say God populated this universe with robots. These robots are doing God's will. He programmed the robots to do His will. Therefore, they are doing His ultimate purpose. Can we say that these robots have purpose and meaning? No. Why not? Because they do not have consciousness. So, in this hypothetical universe, God exists. He created robots. He programmed them to do His will. So the robots are doing His will. Therefore, they are doing His ultimate purpose. And yet, still, these robots have no meaning and purpose. So what is the factor that defines meaning and purpose? Is this factor God? No, this factor is consciousness. Purpose and meaning can only be personal. And that makes absolutely sense. What is meaning? Meaning is recognizing a logical pattern or a physical structure and then having a sentiment. Can we have meaning without a sentiment? No, we cannot. So whatever God intends for us is irrelevant if we don't feel it ourselves. You can align with the purpose of God, but as long as you don't feel it, it's not your purpose, and it's not even purpose. Now, Imran Hussein, I challenge you, like Davy 504 say, I challenge you to rebut this argument. And everyone else watching this video, I challenge you to rebut this argument. I even made a cool thumbnail, open challenge. Okay.
So for example, in the Quran, God makes it abundantly clear that He created us to know Him and to worship Him. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Very clearly. And you can argue, the entire message of the Quran revolves around this reality. But that's the first thing I wanted to clarify. From the Islamic perspective, we believe in God, who is the creator, and He creates things with purpose. And He created us with a purpose. And if He created us, and He created us with a purpose, well, then that purpose is objective. That is the true purpose of our existence. Let's move on to the second part of the clip.
The idea that if you let go of God, if you let go of religion, then your life is devoid of meaning is a hypocritical statement coming from those who believe in the one thing that I think takes meaning out. It's often said that being an atheist is something that will take away meaning, but religion is the enemy of meaning. There's nothing that is more evocative of Sisyphus pushing his rock up the endless mountain than an eternity in heaven. Time is like a fabric that thins out the more you stretch it. People talk about time being spent. I think the terminology is right there because you can consider it like a currency. For a man who has $1 billion, a single dollar is worth absolutely nothing. And for a person who has an eternity of days ahead of them, a single day is worth nothing too. The only truly meaningless life, I think, is one that fails to recognize the urgency and the limitation of our days.
Now, this is a terrible, terrible generalization on the part of Alex. He seems to have taken all religions and put them into the same basket. Again, from the Islamic perspective, and this is why I really encourage Alex and other atheists to really look into Islam, beyond the media narratives that are out there, and really see what Islam has to say. Now, in regards to this life and the next life, Alex's point is, well, look, and he gives the analogy of someone that's really rich, billionaire, he has billions of dollars. What is the value of $1? So what he's trying to say here is that, look, for someone that believes in an eternal afterlife, and that means that they'll go on forever, perpetually. Well, what is the value of this life? Because you have forever. But from the atheist perspective, according to him, well, you only have this life and nothing comes after that. Therefore, life is extremely valuable from that perspective. Now, I grant him on the surface, it's a good point. However, again, from the Islamic perspective, it doesn't really add up because he's not appreciated here, and he's generalized this, he's not appreciated the dynamic, the relationship between this life and the next life from the perspective of Islam.
That's a good point Imran makes, and that's the only answer. Because I also made this argument. I said that comparing to eternity, the value of this life becomes zero. But now he adds the dynamic. That means that he relates this life to eternity. So the value of this life has to do with the eternity. Okay, so this life has value because it's a test for you to go to the afterlife. Yeah, but now let me introduce you to your insane admission. Okay, look now what you admitted. Life is meaningless unless for the practical purpose of the test of God. That is what you just said. Still, life is meaningless unless a test. That's the most shallow thing I have ever heard. In other words, let me rephrase what you said. The only value in this world is submission. This is what you say. Therefore, the ultimate virtue in this world is submission. That is what you're saying. Now you will say submission to God, therefore that's virtuous. No, it isn't, my friend. Because to God is irrelevant. Whatever God prescribes, you will still submit. Let's say God was the devil. Still, the only value in this world is submission. And that is where your ideology leads. Totally shallow, amoral worldview. Totally shallow, my friend. The only value in this world is submission. Congratulations. Let me make a stand ovation, although I'm bored.
This life, in relation to the next life, is like a springboard. It's an opportunity for the human being to attain the hereafter. What's going to be carried forward with you in the next life are your deeds in this life. And God gives the whole Quran is guidance in regards to how you should live, how you should act, what you should do. And it's what you do in this life, how you act, how you live, that determines whether you get hell or paradise.
So your philosophy is based on a test, not on morals, not on virtue. Can you understand now what you admit? Therefore, the test is the issue, not morality. Let's say Allah included in his test the person who kills more people in the name of Allah gets paradise. Can you philosophically object to that from your worldview? No, you cannot, because your worldview is not fixed on morality or virtue, is fixed on a test. So the ultimate virtue, the ultimate value, in fact the exclusive value in your worldview is submission. Okay, so that's how shallow is your worldview. Moreover, it goes worse than this. What you gain in paradise. The Islamic paradise is totally hedonistic. You get an endless masturbation. Now look where your ideology leads. The ultimate virtue in this world is masturbation. Okay, Imran Hussein. Okay, you make the goal. What is the goal? The hedonistic Islamic paradise. Isn't that the goal? What is the end purpose of existence, according to you? The Islamic paradise. Having orgasm for 300 years. Huris and 1,000 little boys serving you. Okay, that's totally hedonistic. That's masturbation, literally. So the end goal of existence is masturbation. And that's why these guys will never make a response video to my video. Because they know that in 5 minutes, I make their ultimate purpose masturbation. Okay, that's the effect.
What happens after death are a few stages. Right after death, we have something called al-ba'th, resurrection. And then we have al-hashr, which is that place where everyone will get together to wait for something called al-hisab, which is accountability. And right after the accountability, we have something called al-mizan, which is that thing that will weigh your deeds.
What this scale is measuring? Is measuring how good person you were? No. It's measuring how much you submitted. The stomach churning difference between Islamic spirituality, which prizes ritualism, and Christian spirituality, which prizes character. Compare this sermon to Christ's teaching found in the Sermon on the Mount.
Yeah? The one that sells drugs, good or bad? Just very quickly, good or bad? Bad. How about the murderer? How about the one who commits adultery, zina? What about the one who rapes a child? What about the one who drinks alcohol? What about the one who does the biggest of the kabair, good or bad? This person, one person that commits all of these sins, he commits all of these sins on a daily basis, but he prays is better in the eyes of Allah than the one that doesn't commit any of these sins but doesn't pray.
Islam explained in 30 seconds.
Yeah? The one that sells drugs, good or bad? Just very quickly, good or bad? Bad. How about the murderer? How about the one who commits adultery, zina? What about the one who rapes a child? What about the one who drinks alcohol? What about the one who does the biggest of the kabair, good or bad? This person, one person that commits all of these sins, he commits all of these sins on a daily basis, but he prays is better in the eyes of Allah than the one that doesn't commit any of these sins but doesn't pray.
Mother Teresa spent, 40 years of her life feeding children in Africa. Does she go to heaven? No. She was Christian, eh? She's burning in hell. Osama bin Laden, he submitted. Imran, I dare you to go to Pakistan, your home country, and say Osama bin Laden is in hell and Mother Teresa is in paradise. And see if you survive. In fact, don't do it because they will kill you. Simple. So we see the Islamic scale of good and bad is an amoral scale that only values submission. Morality in Islam is whatever favors Islam in any given circumstance. This is morality. Okay, whatever favors Islam. One day might be save this kid, the other day kill this kid. One day etsy, the next yuvetsy. One day prostitution is good, the other day prostitution not so good. One day theft is cutting hands, but when Muhammad steals, is the best person ever lived. Okay, adultery is stone them to death unless your name is Muhammad. When your moral compass is submission, then you are lost.
And after the hisab, we have something called the mizan. And after the mizan, we have something called the sirat. I want to pause here. I want to pause at the sirat. What is the sirat? The sirat, ladies and gentlemen, is a bridge. Because before you enter Jannah, each one of us will have to go through this sirat. We have to go to this bridge. And we have, in Bukhari and Muslim, we have a description to this sirat, to this bridge. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ even told us how we will cross this bridge. It's been reported in Bukhari and Muslim that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he described this sirat, this bridge, something as thin or thinner than a piece of hair and sharper than a blade. You will have to cross it. Underneath it is something called hellfire. Underneath the sirat is something called hellfire. So now I'd like you to imagine with me, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, here we are. I want to start this journey by you imagining you are in one end of the sirat. You are at one end of that bridge, because at that very end of that bridge you have Jannah. At the very end you have heaven. But now you are in the beginning, in the very last end of the sirat. What's going to happen? Underneath is hellfire. You will have to cross it. But you will cross it at the speed of light. Why? Because you are the believers. You are the righteous people. You will cross it in a blink of an eye. So now, ladies and gentlemen, khalas, it is all done because you crossed the sirat. I make them see things. I make them touch things. I make them feel things. And I make them dream that they are there, seeing things, feeling things, smelling things. I'm gonna try, inshallah ta'ala, to do my best to make you live like you are in Jannah. By the way, brothers, did you bring your swimsuits with you?
Imran Hussein, your cult that gives value to this life makes motivation speeches about death. Only when you talk about Jannah, you are excited. Music, haram, not so much excitement.
Allah yad'u. Allah is calling you to the house of peace. And what is the house of peace? Is Jannah. Khalas, you have closed the sirat. After you close the sirat, all your problems are gone. The diseases that you've been suffering from are gone. The complaints are gone. The bills, the expenses that you've been suffering from and complaining about are gone. The complaints from your husbands, from your wives, from your children are gone. Everything is over. Khalas, now you have crossed the bridge. You have the gates of Jannah. Who are you seeing? Now you get to see some people. Now you get to see the prophets. Now you get to see the companions. Now you get to see, no. Before that, now you get to see your parents. They have made it. Your parents also crossed the sirat.
Now, what if they didn't make it? You will be happy, Imran? Let's say your parents didn't make it, and now they are burning in hell. You will be happy, yes, I forgot. Your paradise has nothing to do with morality. That's the proof. Your parents will be burning for non-crimes, by the way, for the imaginary crime of rejecting magic dictator. Okay, so for the imaginary crime of rejecting an evil monster, okay, your parents are now burning in hell. You will be happy. You will be masturbating, so you won't care if your parents are burning for eternity.
You get to see your children. They also cross the sirat.
What if they didn't cross the sirat, your children? Your children will be burning for eternity, but you will be happy, You will be masturbating. At least, thank you God, at least I pass the sirat. My children, fuck them. Let them burn. Okay, now let's see a description of hell. Another documentary, in other words. Let's see the other documentary.
Hellfire speaks. Hellfire roars. Hellfire breathes in. Hellfire breathes out. Hellfire attacks. Wallahi, hellfire is an animal. The Prophet ﷺ said when the hellfire is being brought down on that day, when that day Allah is angry. Allah is angry on a day like He's never been angry before. And the hellfire we brought, the hellfire will be uncontrollable. The hellfire will be untamable. So much so that there will be 70,000 ropes. Like when you have a dog, you have a leash, right? To hold the dog. There's going to be 70,000 leashes on hellfire. And each leash will have 70,000 angels. 70,000 angels! Because hellfire will be out of control. Hellfire will want to destroy the enemies of Allah. Hellfire will want to destroy the sinners, the innovators, the disbelievers. Hellfire will want to swallow them, roast them, toast them, break them, shake them, crack them. Hellfire will want to annihilate them because hellfire is a slave of Allah and it has ghairah. It has this jealous. How dare you disrespect Allah? How dare you disobey? So on that day, when you're there standing in front of hellfire,
No fear. No fear. Girl, you live your life like a sleeping swan. The time has gone. Sorry, I couldn't resist doing that. Okay, where were we? Ah, yes, you were scaring us. Please continue.
it will swallow, the way it will take you, the way it will absorb you. Brothers, that's not a day to play with.
So now from this perspective, this life that we live from an Islamic perspective is far more significant now, even more so. Because we know it's what happens in these 50, 60, 70 years that determines our hereafter. So it doesn't, Islam, just because we believe in an afterlife, it does not take away anything from this life. If anything, from the Islamic perspective, it makes it far more significant. So just to correct his analogy, from the Islamic perspective, it's like saying a person still has $6 in his pocket. But how he uses those $6 determines whether he becomes a billionaire or not.
No, in fact, that's a wrong analogy. The true analogy is that you have $60, you buy a ticket of submission, and you say the only value in this world is this ticket. That leads to masturbation. In other words, you buy a ticket of submission for masturbation. That is the true analogy, Imran. Okay, let me rephrase better what you are saying for people to understand. When he says submission, that doesn't mean submission to God, therefore submission to the ultimate virtue, therefore I'm virtuous. No, that's not what this implies. This implies that values have no inherent value. The only thing that has value is submission. Love hasn't got any value. Philosophy hasn't got any value. Okay, nothing has value except submission. Okay, that is what that implies. He doesn't understand that that is what he implies, but that is what he implies. Values have no inherent value.
But you're a Christian, I know, not allowed. But you're a Jew, not allowed in my home. But you're a Hindu, never, not with my children. Why? Because the industry is dirty, that's what it is. So people argue, no, there is maybe perhaps, I do agree. Perhaps the duf is permissible within certain limits, Perhaps if you are singing an Islamic song with beautiful meanings, perhaps within limits, there is a certain permissibility. But here I'm speaking of the musical instruments and the music industry, whereby people start shaking. I don't even know what. It comes naturally. They say it's natural. It's not natural. It's shaitan's way of controlling you. You listen to the beat continues, you start tapping your finger, you start moving your head. A little while later you start moving the top of your body, and a little while later you start moving the bottom of it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us. And the words have become so dirty, my brothers and...
Not everyone can understand house music. It's a spiritual thing. It's a body thing. It's a soul thing.
Μέσα στα μάτια σου μπορώ
Ό,τι ζητήσω να βρω,
κάτι μεγάλο, κάτι μικρό, πιο δυνατό.
μέσα στα μάτια σου μπορώ όλο τον κόσμο να δω,
Εκεί να χαθώ, να λυτρωθώ. Εκεί να χαθώ, να ονειρευτώ.
μέσα στα μάτια σου μπορώ όλο τον κόσμο να δω, κάτι μεγάλο, κάτι μικρό, να λυτρωθώ.